Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Peace and blessings of Allah be upon you. Welcome to tonight's lecture organized by the UK Talim Department. As per our tradition, we will start the program with the recitation of the Holy Quran. I would request Sharf-ur-Rehman Sahib to deliver the Tilawat and its translation, please.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين وآخرين منهم لما يلحقوا بهم وهو العزيز الحكيم ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم. I have just recited verses 1 to 5 of chapter 62 Surah Al-Jummah, and the English translation of the verses is as follows. I seek refuge with Allah from Satan the accursed. In the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful. Whatever is in the heavens and whatever is in the earth glorifies Allah, the sovereign, the holy, the mighty, the wise. He it is who has raised among the unlettered people a messenger from among themselves, who recites unto them his signs and purifies them, and teaches them the book and wisdom, although they had been before in manifest misguidance. And among others, from among them who have not yet joined them, he is the mighty, the wise. That is Allah's grace, He bestows it on whom who pleases, and Allah is the master of immense grace. Jazakumullah.
Skills appear on mute.
Jazakallah. Sorry. So Jazakallah Sharf-ur-Rehman Sahib. Tonight we have the pleasure of being joined by Kalim Tahir Sahib. He has the honor of serving Jamaat in various capacities, and currently serving as one of the national secretary for Rishta Nata department in the UK for Ahmadiyya Muslim community. He's always had an interest in learning about the lives of the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and the promised Messiah Alayhi Salam and their companions. As always, there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions at the end, towards the end of the segment of the program. Please type your questions relevant to the topic of the lecture. It gives me a great pleasure to hand over to Kalim Tahir Sahib to deliver his lecture for tonight.
Jazakallah Shakil Sahib. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I would like to start by thanking our National Talim Department for creating this wonderful platform where we all get the opportunity to expand our knowledge on a vast array of topics. The diversity of topics which have been covered since last year is quite remarkable. May Allah bless the organizers for all their hard work that they do behind the scenes. Ameen. I actually received the inspiration of today's topic by listening to a few anecdotes from my father, who had the good fortune of spending some time in the company of Hadhrat Ghulam Nabi Misri Sahib in his younger years. I would like to start my talk with the narration of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is reported to have said, "Ashabi kan najumu bi ayyihim muqtadaytum ihtadaytum." That my companions are like the stars. Whomever you follow, you will be guided. So, our beloved, sorry, I'm just going to share a screen with all of you. So bear with me. So, our beloved Huzur, Ayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasir Aziz, has delivered a series of Friday sermons over the last few years, recounting the life of many of the companions of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They all had different personalities, but you can tell that they had all drunk from the same fountain. The company of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had cleansed their hearts and souls to the extent that they had started reflecting different hues of the divine light that had reached them through their holy master, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This magical reformation of the Bedouins of Arabia is indeed the biggest miracle manifested at the hands of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This light continued to glow and dispel the darkness and provided guidance to hundreds of thousands after the demise of Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Unfortunately, with the passage of time and in accordance with the divine prophecies, this light had ascended to the Pleiades. However, with the advent of the promised Messiah alayhi salam, this light is once again shown in the world through him and the companions of the latter days. I am sure that there are some in today's audience who have personally witnessed and benefited from those companions. Furthermore, we are extremely fortunate that the lives of many of these companions have now been recorded and thus would continue to be a source of guidance till the end of time, inshallah. However, it is our responsibility that we continue to correct our course by following in their footsteps and using their noble examples as a compass. As a National Secretary, Rishta, Nata, I come across hundreds of people, young and old, children and parents, and I've noticed that while living in the Western world, sometimes our priorities have started to change, and our own eyes are dazzled by the material light that we see around us. And this is another reason why I think it is important to convey the lifestyle and the stories of these noble and revered divines to the members of Jamaat so that we can actually take examples from their lifestyle and try to remind ourselves that what are our roots and which are the ideals who we should try to follow in our daily lives. Today I've decided to shed some light on the life of one such companion whose obedience to Khilafat, willingness to sacrifice everything for the community, and love for Allah are the guideposts for all of us. I will be sharing with you some glimpses from the life of Hadhrat Ghulam Nabi Misri Sahib radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Hadhrat Ghulam Nabi Sahib radiyallahu ta'ala anhu was born in Bassi near Patiala. His father passed away in his childhood. However, he had hired a tutor to teach young Ghulam Nabi the recitation of the Holy Quran before his demise. Ghulam Nabi Sahib moved to Ludhiana after the demise of his father and took admission in a school called Taslisi Madrasa. Literally translated, it would be Trinity School. And it's interesting why the school was given this particular name. It had become to be known by this name only because it was run by three gentlemen who all shared the same name, Abdul Aziz. He subsequently studied Greek medicine in Delhi, where he was awarded a medal. After completing his education, Ghulam Nabi Sahib first moved to Amritsar and then moved to Qadian, where he used to live in Langar Khana along with some other dervishes. In Qadian, he spent a lot of time in the company of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih I, Hazrat Hakim Maulvi Nuruddin Sahib Raziyallahu Anhu, and became very close to him. He used to accompany him in his practice as well as serve as his librarian. He would shadow Hazrat Maulvi Sahib from morning till evening. Hazur Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anhu declared him his son because of this very closeness. Once, Munshi Abdur-Rehman Sahib of Saharanpur, who was a devoted Ahmadi, wrote to Qazi Zuhuruddin Akmal Sahib that he was unable to live in Qadian due to certain reasons. However, he said it was his heartfelt desire that his two daughters should be married in Qadian so that they could live there. Qazi Sahib showed this letter to Hazrat Khalifatul Masih I, Raziyallahu Anhu, who was very pleased to hear this intent of Munshi Abdur-Rehman Sahib. Hazur said to Qazi Sahib that it was a very blessed desire and he would like to marry one of the sisters with his beloved son. Upon hearing this, Qazi Sahib, who knew that Hazrat Khalifatul Masih I didn't have any son in a marriageable age at that time or who could be married, he had this very puzzling look on his face. So noticing the confusion on Qazi Sahib's face, Hazur clarified that his son's name was Ghulam Nabi. Munshi Abdur-Rehman Sahib came to Qadian upon hearing about this proposal and settled the marriage of his daughter with Hadhrat Ghulam Nabi Sahib. He only demanded that Hadhrat Ghulam Nabi Sahib would teach Quran and Hadith to his daughter in dowry and said that that would be a priceless treasure for his daughter. On another occasion, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih I Raziyallahu Anhu said about Hazrat Ghulam Nabi Misri Sahib, I would take his love with me to paradise. Once, another close companion of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih I asked for his permission to leave Qadian in search of work as he and his family were having an extremely difficult or tough time financially. Hazur radiallahu anhu permitted him to leave and prayed that his financial hardships be alleviated. He said, however, he prefers people like Ghulam Nabi Sahib, who have tied an eternal bond with him and would never leave him under any circumstances. Next, I'm going to narrate an incident that is the ultimate lesson in love and obedience of Khilafat. As I've already mentioned, that Ghulam Nabi Sahib served as a librarian of the personal library of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih I. Once Hazur sent him to Bhopal to copy some rare manuscripts from the library of Nawab Sadiq Hasan Khan Sahib. One of these books was Tafsir Shawkani, which comprises of 6 volumes. He wasn't offered any income for this service. When he arrived in Bhopal, an old acquaintance of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih arranged for his food. In addition, he joined a class for learning Bukhari, for which he was given a very small allowance by the sponsors of that school, as it was a customary thing in those days. He would dedicate most of his time in copying the required manuscripts. It took Ghulam Nabi Sahib a year to copy these manuscripts. However, he never demanded any compensation in return for his service. If you're moved by this sacrifice, then please hold your thoughts for a few more minutes. It so happened that some of the manuscripts requested by Hazrat Khalifatul Masih I weren't available in Nawab Sahib's library. Hadhrat Ghulam Nabi Misri Sahib learned that one of those manuscripts, a rare book of medicine called Shafa'i-e-Alil, was available from the library of Al-Azhar University in Cairo. Therefore, he set off to Cairo. On the first leg of the journey, he reached Karachi. He only had a few rupees left by that time. However, it didn't deter him from his mission for a moment. With his money, he could only get a ticket to go to Basra on a ship. He then walked all the way from Basra to Cairo, a track of a few thousand miles. In Cairo, he used to earn his living by collecting date stones from streets, which were considered a magic diet for cattle in those days. Again, this used to give him very small income, which was almost entirely spent on food, lodging, and the purchasing of paper, ink, and nibs. In those days, Al-Azhar Library had the policy that copying of manuscript was only permissible with pencils, lead pencils. Hazrat Ghulam Nabi Sahib used to copy with a pencil during the day, and in the evening he used to write over it with ink and a nib. After a short while, the university introduced even more stringent measures, and no copying was allowed at all. Hazrat Ghulam Nabi Sahib still found a solution to this new problem. He started memorizing the manuscripts during the daytime, and he would then write it down from memory in the evening. It took him 1.5 years to copy this book of 800 pages. Hazrat Ghulam Nabi Sahib radiallahu ta'ala anhu was counted amongst the established scholars of the Jamaat. He was no ordinary individual. He had full command of the Arabic language. You probably don't know, but he translated 8 books of the promised Messiah alayhi salam into Arabic. And the style that he has used while doing those translation is actually a pattern, a standard that has been set for the translation of all the other books of the promised Messiah Islam into other languages. He was appointed as the first Arabic teacher in Qadian. He was also appointed as the first head teacher of Madrasa Ahmadiyya on its inception. He continued teaching in Madrasa Ahmadiyya until 1946. He's also the author of a number of books. In fact, during his stay in Egypt, he engaged in some public debates and published a book giving the people of Egypt the glad tiding of the coming of the Imam of the day. He lived a very simple life. This was another hallmark of Ghulam Nabi Misri Sahib's life. May Allah be pleased with him. His clothes were very simple but clean. He used to wear a long shirt with pajama, a loose trouser that came to his ankles. My father, as I mentioned, he had the good fortune of seeing him in his younger years. He says that his footwear was always simple plimsoll shoes. His house consisted of a boundary wall and a single room, where the room was thatched with reeds. When someone mentioned that this roof might leak in the rainy season, he simply responded that the Prophet's mosque also had a roof of date leaves. He only had a leather sack for storing water from which he would drink with his hands because he did not have a glass in the house. Instead of using sugar in his tea, he used to take a pinch of sugar to sweeten the tongue and then drink his tea. In short, he had no worldly desires. In fact, beyond the remembrance of Allah and Allah Himself, he had never desired anything else. It's interesting to note that despite his extremely simple life, he participated in every single scheme of financial sacrifice. He was offered 1,000 rupees in Provident Fund money upon his retirement. He gave, and everyone should make note of this, he gave 500 rupees to his wife, saying that was her share. And he gave away his half of the money to Hazrat Khalifatul Masih II Raziyallahu Ta'ala anhu, saying he had no needs and Hazur could spend that money wherever he wished. Can any of us even think of making a financial sacrifice that comes close to it? We can give huge sums of money, but I'm sure that the value and weight of those 500 rupees in the sight of Allah would be greater than the vast contributions which would be offered by the rich today or the kings of tomorrow. Another of his life trait was his love for Allah. Hadhrat Ghulam Nabi Sahib Raziyallahu Anhu was steeped in the love of Allah. Those who have met him narrate that he would do istighfar extremely frequently. He hardly ever completed a sentence without saying, Rabbi Ighfir. And sometimes he would say Rabbi Ighfir even in the middle of his sentence, and then complete whatever he was saying. Sometimes young children who didn't understand his meekness and his love for Allah laughed at this practice, but that was his style. This is how he used to remember Allah all the time. Reading and reciting and teaching the Holy Quran was another of his favorite pastimes. He used to teach the Holy Quran at home and in the mosque. His free moments were never free of the remembrance of Allah. He always offered his prayers in the mosque, even in his final illness. He sometimes went to offer Friday service in congregation while leaning on two people. I mentioned to you at the beginning of his love and close bond with Hazrat Khalifatul Masih I, Raziyallahu Anhu. That love did not deteriorate or became any less after the demise of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih I. So much so that the sudden death of Sahib Zada Abdul Salam Sahib, who was the son of his beloved master Hazrat Khalifatul Masih I, Raziyallahu Anhu, shocked him so much that he also fell ill from grief. In his final illness, whenever his breathing used to stop, he used to start reciting, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah. He used to continue reciting it until his breath used to return. And this condition lasted for several weeks. But that was his practice, that whenever his breathing would stop, he would start saying, La ilaha illallah. Once during his final illness, someone gave him a medicine while he was in a state of unconsciousness. When he learned about it upon regaining his consciousness, he became very cross with the individual because, according to him, he was ready to embrace his Lord and he did not want anyone to delay this meeting. He passed away in 1956. May Allah shower His choicest blessings on the soul of Hadhrat Ghulam Nabi Sahib, Raziyallahu Anhu, and enable us to take guidance from this shining star of the promised Messiah, alayhi salam, and enable us to follow in his footsteps. Ameen. So, I don't think the account of Munshi Ghulam Nabi Misri Sahib is available in one place. So I am very grateful to my father who actually has helped me compile a lot of this information that I've shared with you today by giving me this material and also by sharing some of his own experiences that he had witnessed firsthand in the company of Ghulam Nabi Sahib. So I request prayers for him as well. And with this, I end my presentation. Jazakallah for having me and listening to my brief presentation.
Jazakallah, Kalim Tahir Sahib. That was quite a, I think, quite a inspirational lecture and sharing some of the aspect of the life of the Hazrat Maulvi Ghulam Nabi Raziyallahu Anhu, who was very influential scholar, of course, considerable knowledge of the Quran and Hadith, and I'm sure the viewer must have found it a very knowledgeable lecture. So once again, Jazakallah. I just want to add on to the viewers that if you have any suggestions in terms of lectures, or you would like a speaker or recommend a speaker for particularly for these lectures, so please email us on the taleemonline@ahmadiyyauk.org to give your suggestions. I'd like you to if you want us to have a particular topic for the lecture, or you have a recommendation of any speakers. To end this lecture, I just would like to request our guest, Kalim Tahir Sahib, to lead us in the silent prayer, please. So can I request you, Kalim Tahir Sahib, to lead us in the silent prayer?
Kindly join me in silent prayer, please. Ameen.
So thank you, viewers, for watching the program. Just as a reminder that our normal lectures, which are Urdu lecture next week on Mondays and English lecture on Tuesdays, and the timings are 8 to 9 p.m. Just to let you know again. So Jazakallah once again for thank you for watching our lecture. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum salam.